All right, just a short time ago, I sat down with former Vice President Mike Pence to talk about the multiple crises we are facing as a country, both at home and abroad. Take a look. All right, joining us now, former Vice President Mike Pence. Mr. Vice President, how are you, sir?
Good to see you, Sean. Thank you.
So, economically, Lawrence Summers says we may be headed for a crash. You see the events in the world unfolding: Ukraine, Russia, a new alliance with Russia and China. We have a Chinese balloon flying all over the country. We don't shoot it down. I am seeing really troubled times on every front. I want to get your take.
Well, look, it's all evidence of failed leadership by the Biden administration at home and abroad. I mean, the unprovoked war of aggression, now 1 year in the making in Ukraine with Russia. Look, Vladimir Putin's responsible for the decisions that he made, but I have no doubt in my mind that the capitulation of this administration on Nord Stream 2, the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, set the environment where Putin thought he could get away with that invasion in Ukraine. And here at home, the American people are paying a price. I mean, the $1.9 trillion in spending passed on a party line vote that launched the worst inflation in 40 years. And before the end of the last session, nearly another $1 trillion in unnecessary spending. And the American people know that we need change in this country. And they know that there are challenging times ahead at home and abroad, but they also know that whether it's the economy, whether it's a world stage, whether it's a crisis at the border, whether it's crime on the streets of our major cities, these are all the natural consequence of the failed leadership of President Biden. And I think that's why there's change around the corner.
Let me ask about Ukraine. Big deal made in the media about Joe Biden going over to Kyiv, meeting President Zelensky. Okay. The United States of America has already contributed $133 billion. The rest of Europe, $30 billion. Great Britain, $5 billion. Germany, $5 billion. This is their backyard. But the worst decision I think Joe Biden made, he has prevented countries like Poland from providing fighter jets that Zelensky would need to win the war.
Right.
And I know a lot of American taxpayers are saying, if you're not going to fight this war to win this war, why are you taking $130 billion and spending it on the war?
Well, it's a fair question, but let's back up for a second and remember that the Trump-Pence administration was the only administration in the 21st century where Russia did not even attempt to redraw international lines by force. They did it under the Bush administration when the tanks rolled into Georgia. They did it under the Obama administration when they captured Crimea. But under our administration, it was peace through strength, historic investments in our national defense, a willingness to allow our military to prosecute our interests, take the fight to our enemies on our terms, on their soil. That changed under this administration, and it's emboldened not only Putin, but other authoritarian leaders around the world. That said, we're in the fight, and I believe we've got to stay in the fight. You know, it was 1985, State of the Union address by Ronald Reagan, in which he articulated what came to be known as the Reagan Doctrine. He said, we must not break faith with those who are risking their lives to defy Soviet-supported aggression. I mean, as the Bible says, there's nothing new under the sun. What is now has been before. We are involved in a proxy war against the Soviet Union. The Ukrainians are fighting it. And I really believe it's absolutely essential that we see it through. We demand our European allies do more than their share because it is their front yard. But I think it's absolutely essential that after a slow start in providing support to the Ukrainian military by the Biden administration, we're now providing that support, but let's get them what they need, the tanks. Let's get them the F-16s.
But Joe Biden vetoed
let's support them as they finish this fight.
Joe Biden vetoed Poland from giving them MiGs.
Right.
Mistake, right?
Yeah. Well, look, President Biden was dragging his feet from go. And remember when he said that it might be acceptable if there was just a small incursion by the Russian military. I mean, this is a absent without leadership administration when it comes to the foreign stage, and they've been playing catch up ever since. But I really do believe that it's absolutely essential that we embrace that Reagan doctrine. I've stood closer than I am to you and looked Vladimir Putin right in the eye and told him things he didn't want to hear. And I got to tell you, if you think he's going to stop if he captures Ukraine in reestablishing the old Soviet sphere of influence,
you think he'd go to Poland?
You got another thing coming. I don't know Poland, but
he has other territorial
Lithuania, Estonia, Belarus, these other countries are already beginning to either feel the fear or begin to fall in line. And so I think it's important that we hold the line here, support the Ukrainians as they make the fight, just like that Reagan doctrine said. But at the end of the day, the real antidote here is what we had during our administration, and that was a commitment not only to our national defense, but also an unwavering commitment to allow our military to defend and prosecute our interests in the world wherever they were threatened.
Europe, in my view, has to step up. Europe has to provide the necessary weapons to win, and I think that's been a missing part of the equation. Let me talk a little bit about you and your future. A lot of speculation you might be getting in the race for president. Are you thinking about it? Have you decided? Where are you in the process?
We are thinking about it. Karen and I have made no decision yet, but we're getting a lot of encouragement from around the country. I was in Iowa and Minnesota last week, taking a stand for parents' rights. We'll be back on the road this week to Texas, and what I'm hearing from people around the country is they want to get back to what we were doing during the Trump-Pence administration. But they also want to begin to challenge and take on some of these major challenges that we face as a country, whether it be geopolitical challenges like China, whether it be a national debt the size of our nation's economy, or whether it be these cultural issues that seem to be treading farther and farther on the traditional values that have made this country great. And so we're going to reflect on all of those things. We're going to continue to give it prayerful consideration.
That means you're not going to tell me tonight. I've been doing this long, and I'm teasing.
I promise I'll keep you posted, Sean.
If you do get in, it would mean you are going up against your former partner, President Trump. Is that a factor, A? B, where would you be different on issues than President Trump?
Well, I said early on that the only thing I had decided was that I wasn't going to let anybody else make the decision for me. So whether it's the former president or any other candidate, we'll make a decision based on what I and my family feel called to do in this moment in the life of the nation.
All right, Mr. Vice President, as always, great to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Sean.
Appreciate it.